everyone and welcome back to Beyond the Apex. In today's episode we're in Vegas. Now I feel like everyone has been waiting for this race weekend to happen.
100%.
It's been talked about non-stop and I think hyped up to the max.
Yeah, it really was. But also I would say criticised to the max.
Yeah.
There has been a lot of criticism, especially in the kind of months preceding the race, for kind of the setup and it fully taking over Vegas. But I really do think it gave us one hell of a Grand Prix.
I think so. And in terms of criticisms, I think we'll start on, you just said before we started about the manhole cover. We had an incident kind of at the very start of the weekend with a manhole cover being, what was it? Like,
it was loose. They used expanding foam instead of just welding them down, which eventually led to because obviously all the cars are ground effect now. So Carlos went over the manhole cover, sucked it up and it damaged his car massively. And I think the kind of criticism on the manhole cover coming off is way too extreme because it's happened in Baku, it's happened in Malaysia, it's happened in tracks across the world. It just happens. But I think the main criticism which is warranted is one, the fans were told that they couldn't stay for FP2 because it was massively delayed due to staffing issues. They weren't refunded, they were given like merch vouchers, which is not okay because the tickets were like $1,000 even for the Thursday. And secondly, a lot of criticisms come from Sainz's penalties, which I think you can probably talk about more, but it was kind of it was controversial, but I do think the penalties were implemented correctly.
So obviously he got a penalty because they had to change a part on the car, and obviously that is just the way it is. If you change a part on the car too many times in the season, you're going to get a penalty. And there was obviously a lot of criticism because it's like it wasn't his fault. Like he had to change it. It was their fault because the track was like it damaged the car. So, but I mean, from my perspective and what I've seen, I think the stewards cannot say, oh right, it's not your fault, don't worry, we won't give you a penalty, because it just opens the floodgates.
Absolutely.
For like every single team in any situation to be like, well, that wasn't our fault, like you pay for it. So, and then that defeats the point.
Absolutely, and I think it kind of, there's kind of an extra level because it's like, what if another team damaged your parts? So what if we had like a Hungary 2021 where a car barrels in, destroys loads of car parts, it isn't their fault, but they still have to change the parts. It's kind of, it sets a bad precedent.
It does.
And both of us being law students understand what setting a bad precedent does. Yeah. But they needed, and apparently the stewards was searching for 3 hours to try and find a loophole in the rules to allow Sainz not to take a penalty. Yeah. And they failed because they just couldn't set a bad precedent and going against the regulations.
I think I mentioned when we first spoke about it a while ago, I think it was like, well, when the race happened and stuff, but I said about Formula E, and I said in Rome during that race when they had the massive crash with Sam Bird, Sebastian Buemi and half of the grid, you know, they all had to, it was due to the fact that the track wasn't good enough, hence why we're not racing there this season, like coming, season 10, but it's because the track was like, it was an angle like that obviously meant that when you go over it, it damages the car very similar to that of Vegas, and all the teams still had to like prepare spare chassis, spend all night rebuilding cars, and that wasn't like, you know, they weren't given lenience towards the fact that it wasn't their fault. Like, they've still got to deal with it. That's what you do as a team. You deal with the situation that you're given. You are racing on a track.
Exactly. I mean, the moment the drivers come out of the pits in FP1, they are agreeing to the track conditions. They've done the track walks. They've analysed the track, and they drive on it happily. Yeah. And if a track problem happens, that's tough. And unfortunately, the drivers just have to deal with it. It's happened to every driver, I'm sure. Throughout the entirety of their career, they've had a problem on the track, which isn't their fault, which has caused a massive penalty. It's just life, it's just racing. But the problem I personally had with it was the fans' perspective. They due to staffing, I think at the time that it was, FP2 started at 2:30 in the morning, and therefore they didn't have the staff, and they just told the fans they couldn't be there, and that was disappointing for me from the FIA.
I think disappointing from the whole overall organisation of the event in general. You know, people have paid a lot of money to be there, and then getting told you can't be there. Like, you know, a lot of people fly out to see it and things like that, and it's disappointing that they can't think that, you know, that they're employing all these people, they can't think of a solution to combat that, and their only solution is not let the fans come in, because the fans run the sport.
Absolutely.
If there were no fans, there'd be no point in doing the sport. No. And we saw that during COVID, so I was disappointed as well. But yeah, I think we'll move on to, you know, the race. So in general, we'll talk about Red Bull first. Obviously, Max wins.
Yeah.
What we probably say at the end.
What Verstappen's in Vegas stays in Vegas. Evidently, had pre-planned that same because
I'm
he
going
was.
to put that as a title for the
Yes,
podcast.
yeah, nice. But yeah, look, it was pretty clear that Max was going to win this weekend, although it was closer. But Red Bull have now broken the record for the most amount of wins in a season, 20, which is just ridiculous. Obviously broke Merck's record from 2016, which was already a stupidly dominant season. But with Max having 18 of the 20 wins this season is just berserk.
Just amazing. It just really proves how much of a good driver he is.
Oh, it really does. It shows the consistency that man has. It just shows that every single weekend he's just performing at the top of his game, and no one can even get close. He is clearly the greatest driver in the world at the moment, and no one can come close.
No, absolutely. I think it's only positives we've got for Red Bull in that perspective, but then we'll go on to Ferrari.
What a weekend from Charles.
Yeah.
Honestly, the deficit in pace was nearly nothing. Charles could compete with Verstappen. We saw it in the first stint. He managed to catch up and pass Max on pace for the first time in what seems like forever. And it was just unreal. Obviously, Carlos had the penalties, so it was a shame for him. But it was a great comeback drive as well, because obviously he span on the first corner, went down to last, and obviously came back to sixth. So very good comeback drive, but that Charles move on the final corner.
Yeah, we just watched it again, when he just probably lunged up the outside of Perez, to take second place. What a move.
It was brilliant, and it felt like it was going to be a classic Charles move where he overcooked it and would just go straight, but he managed to get it slowed down for the corner, and it was just brilliant. To show that Charles still has that kind of drive to try and get P2 at least, it's great to see Charles doing well.
It is. I think it's always good to see Ferrari back on top again. So Mercedes now, we'll move on. I mean,
it was a poor weekend in general, I think. Obviously, there was incidents from both drivers which significantly impacted their race. Obviously, George got the penalty from Max, which put him down from 4th to 8th. And then obviously Lewis got the puncture from Piastri, which was a racing incident. There was no problems with that. It was just unlucky from both drivers. But it just wasn't the greatest weekend.
No, it really wasn't for them. And in terms of quali pace from Lewis,
he hasn't got on top of that car on a Saturday. On a Sunday, he brings kind of the best drives we've ever seen from Lewis. Well, not ever seen, but out of the drivers on the grid, I genuinely think his Sunday pace is only really rivaled by maybe Alonso and Max. It is just on another level, but his Saturday pace is just letting him down once again. Didn't get into Q3. If he'd qualified in the top 3, I genuinely think he would have pressured Charles for P2. He would have been in that fight for a podium for sure.
No, I agree. Yeah, just poor really from them.
Yeah. But going on to Alpine, what a weekend.
Yeah.
What a weekend.
Yeah,
the drive from Ocon obviously had a horrific qualifying. We always see kind of a bad qualifying from the Alpines. Apart from Gasly, who stuck it in P4. I don't know where that come from. I was kind of watching it with my dad, who's a huge Gasly fan, going, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
But what a drive from Ocon, 16th to 4th. You cannot complain. And the kind of the inter-team battling from Alpine was brilliant.
It was brilliant, but in terms of what their overall aim is for the later part of the season, now we've only got one race to go. In terms of their aim about constructors, potentially not an ideal situation to have both team drivers fight each other.
And especially the fact that over the radio they said to hold position. I think that would have been delayed, so it was probably before the straight where Ocon just sent it on Gasly. And it kind of brings us back to, I think we were talking about it a few podcasts ago, the leadership in that team is just not there at the moment. No. There isn't a clear leadership. Obviously, I don't think they have a team principal at the moment, because obviously Otmar left in Spa. They don't really have a clear team leader in terms of a first driver.
No.
It's kind of just Ocon sticks in a good drive and then Gasly sticks in a good drive. There isn't any. It's very muddled in that team, and that's really going to be its letdown.
And I think that creates a lot of rivalry as well between the drivers, because they are so matched on pace. It is just who performs better on that day, and that can be quite a big stressful pressure that's put on the drivers, and it can mean that there's increased rivalry and then also obviously increased risk of crashing.
Oh yes, and obviously we know that Ocon and Gasly haven't got on since karting days. They've always had a massive rivalry. They basically hate each other.
Yeah.
Alpine PR are trying to kind of get them back on track, but yeah, when they come together on track, it always ends in sparks.
Yeah.
So yeah, but again, fantastic weekend from Ocon.
Yeah. So McLaren.
Yeah, it was a good weekend, to say the least. Our race pace looked strong. Obviously, Lando couldn't show it because of the crash. People are saying it wasn't his fault, it was his fault. It is medium. He hit a bump, he couldn't correct this oversteer, and it was a big crash. I'm just glad he's okay because it was a very, very high speed crash.
Yeah.
But the quality strategy was just out the window. We screwed up quality, and then Oscar tried his hardest. But I kind of think I'll move on to hards for the second stint. Bearing in mind Oscar started on the hards, it just screwed him for the race.
Yeah, they just weren't running anywhere, were they?
No,
it was just,
they really weren't.
It was difficult, but yeah, like you said, glad Lando's okay, so it was a very horrible crash. I mean, even the camera shook when
oh my god, yeah.
it first happened.
We didn't even see the crash, we just saw something flash past the camera and then the camera shook.
Yeah.
But yeah, very scary. Glad he's okay.
Absolutely.
But moving on to Alfa Romeo. It was a horrible race as usual.
Yeah.
I mean, but I have to say their livery was stunning.
Yeah, absolutely. Of all the cars and liveries on the grid we've had for Vegas, I think it was one of the...
It really was, and it's been announced as well that they're keeping it for Abu Dhabi for some reason.
Fair
Good on them. They kind of released it with a social media statement saying, clearly in this case what happens in Vegas doesn't stay in Vegas, but I don't know why they're keeping it, maybe sponsorship reasons. But it did look like Bottas had pace in practice, but it just didn't really come to anything.
Yeah, but I think we've seen that a lot this season as well. You know, it may look like he's got pace, but then it just turns out in the race they're just bogged down by the bottom part of the grid, to be honest.
But I would use this opportunity to quickly talk about Teo Pourchaire. Obviously this weekend is the final F2 weekend of the year. I am very, very nervous, to say the least. I just hope he doesn't bottle it. And hopefully, next podcast I will be starting it with my Teo Pourchaire cap on, with him winning the championship. But yeah, fingers crossed. And obviously, we'll talk about Abu Dhabi next week. But yeah, it's going to be very nerve-wracking.
Absolutely, definitely. Okay, so we'll go on to Aston Martin. I mean...
Stroll, last 2 race weekends. Who is this man and what has he done with Lance Stroll?
I don't even know. Like, even in general, I actually in our lecture I was like on Instagram and there was a video of Stroll in Vegas.
Yeah.
And I looked at him and I was like, that's not Lance Stroll.
It's not
He's
Stroll.
got like a moustache.
Yeah.
He's just like he's just living life.
It really is.
And it's really translated to his drive.
It really has. I mean, his quality pace was horrific once again.
Yeah.
For some reason, he just cannot get a grip of that car in quality, and he's always going out in Q1 or Q2. However, yes, he got lucky with safety cars, but he still had the pace. He got P5, I think. Like, who is this man?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Look, obviously, Fernando got very unlucky with the start with the incident.
Yeah.
Kind of got back in the points, which is good for him.
Yeah.
And currently he's equal with Sainz for P4 in the drivers. So that battle for P4, there are 4 drivers in it for P4 in Abu Dhabi. If this was a title battle, my God! But yeah, equal him with Sainz for P4. And fingers crossed for Fernando, he can take that. Or Lando. I'll take a Lando P4 in the drivers any day of the week.
Absolutely. It's going to be a very interesting last race of the season.
It really is.
Okay, we're going to Haas, which is quite funny because we are literally about to drive up to
literally in about 2 hours we're going to be driving to Haas. There were moments in the race where it kind of looked promising for Haas. I think Magnussen was in the points at one point, but that may have been due to strategy. But again, poor race pace. They really, I think for their 2024 car, they just need to get on top of the tyre wear issues, or at least kind of make the car easy to set up. Because we've seen at different kind of places, Hulk's been able to get pace out of that car, so on and so forth. But at this current point, they really can't, and it's a shame to see because we'd love to see Haas getting points. Obviously, they were running P8 at one point, and now they're running P10 in the constructors. It is annoying to see, but hopefully, fingers crossed for 2024. I can't believe we're talking about 2024 already, but hopefully they get on top of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, on to AlphaTauri now. I mean, not the best weekend for them.
It really wasn't. I mean, these last couple of weekends, we've seen the AlphaTauri actually be able to battle for points, but this weekend they were absolutely nowhere. no points scored, no real pace throughout the weekend. And in order to get P7 in the constructors, they need to have a good penultimate race weekend, and they really didn't.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it looks like that P7 in the drivers is going to kind of go to Williams now, unless AlphaTauri have an absolute flyer of a race in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would have been great to see AlphaTauri go from 10th to 7th in the last kind of 5 races of the season, but unfortunately it doesn't look like they are going to.
No.
But I will say, rumours have come out today. They've been kind of progressing over the last couple of days, that the final rebrand for the AlphaTauri team is going to be Racing Bulls. And it's going to be sponsored by Cash App and another one, but it's going to be kind of a white and blue livery. And it's interesting that Red Bull are going down that side. They're not just going for a complete re-sponsorship of the team. They are kind of bringing it back to the Red Bull name.
Yeah.
But it does also kind of feel like their primary intentions were to make the team its own team, its own right. And it feels like they've just gone completely opposite that and just made it an academy team.
Yeah, it does feel like that. You know, I mean, especially with the name, like just. If they were gonna make it a different team, then you don't call it Racing Bulls.
No.
Red Bull Racing Bulls, like it's the same thing.
It really is, and yeah, it just doesn't really make sense to me why they're doing that, unless they really are just restructuring it to an academy team. But then the talk over the last kind of 6 months is that they were trying to kind of separate themselves from the Red Bull name. So very strange, but we'll see next. We'll see next year.
Yeah.
But finally on to Williams. What a qualifying performance!
Yeah, I mean, best quality result in 7 years.
Yeah, I mean, from Sargent, amazing job. They qualified P6 and P7. Obviously, with Sainz's penalty, they went up to P5 and P6. A third row lockout for Williams. Yeah. I mean, there was a little bit of hype for Williams with the straights in Vegas.
Yeah.
But I would not have predicted this. And Sargent being on top of the car, like you've never seen. It's kind of he's coming into the
I mean, we've never said that. I mean, we've been so quite negative. Well,
I've been negative, yeah.
Negative about Sargent.
Critical
is probably the better way to put it. I mean, he is a rookie, so we can be critical, but obviously, I mean, what a weekend.
What a weekend! But unfortunately, obviously, they didn't have the race pace in the end to kind of claim on those points. The safety cars didn't help. They got quite unlucky. But they were lucky that AlphaTauri didn't have any pace and didn't score any points. So. Fingers crossed, P7 in the constructors is still on, which would, for James Vowles, he is such a good team principal, and I think to get P7 in his first year in Williams would be one hell of a result.
It would. Yeah, I think so, especially with the history of what we've had with Williams being probably one of the slowest cars on the bridge, you know, now to see them P7 is incredible, and it is a great achievement.
It really is. But yeah, just to kind of conclude, it was, I think, a great race. The circuit gave many opportunities to overtake, and I think the criticism was unwarranted. It'll be it's a race that I actually look forward to next year now. It was a great race, and very enjoyable.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. But we will get back to you in Abu Dhabi in a few weeks' time. Well, but in a few weeks' time next. Yeah. And then we'll be on to the 2024 season, which is absolutely insane.
Cannot wait.
Because we have done a whole season of Formula 1 podcasts. So
who would have predicted this?
Absolutely. If you want to look back and look at like other races, then we've got the whole shebang.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously we're going to have Abu Dhabi, and then we're going to race a season recap as well.
Yeah.
Before then going on to the first podcast of next year, which will be the Formula E.
It will, and also we will mention there's going to be a little bit of restructuring about how we film it. Maybe.
There is indeed. Yeah. Fingers crossed if we can get it. If we can get it sorted.
I'm sure we will.
Yes, we'll get it done.
But yeah, so thank you so much for watching, and we really appreciate all the continued support.
Absolutely.
And we'll see you for the next one.